health. So this is my morning routine I do every time I wake up. I just take all of these, so omega-3, vitamin D3, vitamin C, glutathione.
Come to mama. Good boy. Oh, oopsie daisy.
Yeah, so this is, he was not walking for a long time. We were like a bit worried he wasn't going to walk because he's like nearly 15 months. And now he's started picking up and he doesn't stop. So this is Glycomax, which I've started taking recently. The reason being is because my fasted blood glucose was a little high, and you know, that's a sign that you need to start taking something to help reduce that, and this is what I've been doing with all my meals. It's basically like just things that help with like berberine, you know, all these things help with improving your insulin sensitivity. So I take 2 with every carb meal, and it's already helped massively. My blood glucose has come down a bit already, from like 5.5 to 4.8. So it's gone from bad blood glucose to pretty good blood glucose for this at this point in the off season. I recommend, if you're far into the off season, definitely take these. Let's film right here. I always have my protein separate from my cream of rice. I don't know why, but I like the flavour of the cream of rice itself, and I feel like, you know, that can kind of ruin it. But in oats, I always mix the protein in oats. Has to be done, but this, not so much.
Improvements from now through the Olympia, and don't be surprised if he comes back 10 pounds bigger, because I thought the thing that cost him the show was that his legs just are not that big.
Right, so obviously, if you're watching this video, you probably saw the title talking about how I got into the best shape of my life naturally, and in this video, you know, we are going to talk about how I executed my bodybuilding prep and how I basically got into literally the best shape I've ever been in before. And you know, there's so many different elements towards that process that allowed me to achieve that 100%. And the prep was definitely set up in a very good way by AJ Morris. He did a superb job, and yeah, we executed it to the plan, and that's going to be the main point of this video. So stay tuned for that. But as you can see, this is kind of like a day in the life vlog, because I know you guys love that type of content, so that's what we're going to keep coming. And I'm going to go to the gym. I've got pool. I'm going to film some bits of that, and then after that we'll get into how I got into the best shape of my life naturally, steroid free. And because, you know, people always want to know how you can achieve fat loss phases, and we're going to get into that, and yeah, show you guys, well, tell you guys how you can achieve that as well. So sit back, enjoy the video, and yeah, let's get going. Right, so it's time to make my intra and pre-workout meal, because it is 11:30 right now and I'm about to head to the gym for pool. And yeah, gonna be a really good session. I'm gonna film it for you guys, show you like the main highlights of the session. But it's exciting because I've got deadlifts. Gonna see what we can pull, maybe 230 kg. Depends how I'm feeling on the warm-ups ultimately. But yeah, let's do my intra. So let me just sort that. So it's pretty simple. I have the creatine in the morning, so I don't need to do that. So EAs, and then Carb-Max by Strong. This is the cotton candy flavour, really nice. So yeah, these two stacked together are very good. You can get them at Elite Sups. Use my code PAL10 as always. And yeah, let's make this. Need the funnel. So do 33 grams of this, which is like 1 serving. So that is like 25 grams of carbs roughly. And then 1 serving of this, which is 15 grams of EAAs. That's it. Easy as that. But then, pre-workout, my favourite has to be Karma. It's about 300 milligrams of caffeine in here, but it's a little bit less strong than some of the heavier stims. Like, it doesn't have DMA in, things that just get you properly, amped up. But for deadlifts, I figured, do a full scoop of this as well. A lot of nootropic stuff in here as well, which makes it a very good pre. And also, there's no crash. Sometimes I take a pre and like halfway through the session, I'm getting tired because my sessions are so long that I'm like an hour and a half, 2 hours in, and I'm just getting tired. So this is perfect. So yeah, this is the Arctic cherry flavour. I actually think the Clout Calmer Pre's taste really good, so yeah, very nice. You'll see in my pre, I have quite a lot of water, literally all the way up to here. It's just because I really try and make sure I'm like heavily hydrated going into my session. So putting as much water into this pre will help. And I literally drink around 4 litres before I train, which might sound crazy because I'm training at midday, but I just think I notice a difference if I don't drink that much. I think my body's, it has adapted to drinking more fluid now, so that's kind of the amount I need. If you're used to not drinking a lot of water, you don't need to suddenly start drinking 4 litres, but maybe, it could be worthwhile thinking like, are you hydrated going into your session? And to keep it simple, if your piss is clear, you're hydrated, that's good. If your piss is just yellow when you're going into the gym, chances are you're dehydrated and your ability to perform will not be there. So yeah, it is important. Right, so we're here, and yeah, like I said, got pull, really excited to train. This is literally one of my favourite sessions in here. The kit for this session is so good, and then we've also got deadlifts, so mine literally, hands down, my favourite movement to ever do. Just pulling off the floor is just so fun. So yeah, gonna be a very good session. Body weight this morning was like 88.5 kilos, so we're getting heavy now, and with that, performance is flying. So yeah, let's do it. Let's see what we can do. Do 30 kg deadlift, ideally. Obviously, I'll see how I'm feeling with warm-ups. But I do 1 set every single week on deadlifts, that's it. So I'll see how I feel, then I might do a higher rep set or a lower rep. We'll see how the lower back's feeling and recovery, but feeling good. Feeling pretty optimistic going into this session, so I think it should be a good one. And yeah, let's do it.
Let's go! Okay, come on! Let's go! Yes! Yes! Good! Yes! Come on! Good. Come on. Come on, come on. 3, 2, 1, yeah. Good. Yes, come on. Let's go. Again, come on. Again, Let's go. Come on.
Hey.
Yeah. Come on. Let's go.
So, pretty good pull session. Not like amazing, but decent. 230 mood for a solid 3, but we took 227.5 for 5 last week. However, I was a little bit more recovered going into that session. And I think mentally, just going into that set, something was a little bit off. Maybe just faffing around a little bit. And those finer details matter even more so when you're doing a low rep set. There's more margin for error, and you know, there's a smaller margin for error, and you know, if you make any mistake with your bracing or dead stopping for a little bit longer than usual, things can be thrown off a bit. So not gonna overthink it, because it was still a good set and the warm-ups were flying. 230 moved well, but next week we'll be going down to a lower weight just to rinse the reps. So I'm doing more effective work through the deadlift just to allow me to get more skillful at it, obviously create a better stimulus through the set, because 3 reps isn't really ideal. But it was fun, it was good fun. So yeah, not a bad pull session. Gonna get back now, eat my post-workout, and then we'll be discussing how you can get in the best shape of your life, free of drugs, naturally, how you approach it, how I approach my prep with AJ, because I haven't actually reflected on my prep so much, and I think this is a good time to do it, because it's been a good while now and I'm in my off season and I'm looking back on it and thinking, yeah, that was a very productive prep and it's worth talking about. So yeah, let's get back. So back from the gym. I actually had my post-workout meal. I just rushed it, but that was just the usual 150 grams of cereal and protein. But yeah, this is the main point of this video, is talking to you guys about how you and how I got into the best shape of my life naturally, and how you can use that for yourself, and you know, what was different this year compared to other preps. And you know, it really, some of the things I really learnt this year have really simplified the process, and how you can actually get into an unbelievable shape in terms of condition and hold your muscle. That's when I say I got into the best shape of my life, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about not just fat loss, but muscle retention throughout that whole phase as well, which is really important, because at the end of the day, if you're just coming in really lean and all your muscle's gone, you're going to look pretty shit, right? You need a good amount of muscle tissue to make that condition look good on you, and to have a good shape. That's important. You know, a small waist, but then wide shoulders, you know, sweeping quads. These areas to your physique is what's going to really make you stand out. I've actually jotted down a few points so I remember, based on, because I could go on for ages about on this topic. The first one, and a very important one, is time. So you need a really good amount of time to execute that fat loss phase based on your goals. So, you know, how much body fat do you want to lose over what period of time? will dictate, you know, how much time you give. So if you want to lose 10 pounds, you don't need long, right? If you want to lose 20, 30, 40 pounds, then you need to give yourself a longer period of time. Why? Because we're not just trying to get into a condition which is just like good to grow from. We're trying to get into a condition which is displayed as really good. You're trying to get into the best shape you've ever been in. It's a shape where physiologically you might take a hit a bit, but you're trying to get into a physique not just for, you know, being in an optimal position, but to actually look good, right? So therefore you're going to need a good amount of time, because we don't want to rush the process. We don't want to lose too much body fat too quick. You know, we don't want to lose really over 1% of body weight per week. When you push hard, and I learned this because there were periods of my prep where perhaps we did push hard for a bit, but generally across that time frame we had a lot of time. But when I did push hard, that was when I was in a greater likelihood position to lose muscle tissue. So try and lose, you know, like a pound a week. Just really give yourself enough time to see out those goals and retain muscle tissue. Because if body weight comes down very steadily, your performance in the gym won't take a hit. This will allow you to retain your movements in the gym, and what you do on the gym floor is so important in terms of retaining your physique, in terms of holding muscle tissue. So you come down steadily and then you will be good. And kind of with that is the starting point. Obviously, the starting point is so important, the condition you start prepping, because if you are holding too much body fat, that means it kind of goes back to that point of time. It means you're going to then have to lose faster to get into the condition you want, because whilst we want a lot of time, you know, for my prep it was, you know, 30 weeks plus, we don't want to be dieting for a year, right? So if you're in a bad condition at the start, then you're going to be losing more than 1% of your body weight per week to get into that shape. You know, whether you're competing or not, that end goal you have, you're going to be rushing the process, and that's going to mean you're going to be chasing your tail, performance is going to drop, and you're ultimately going to be in a bad position. And this is also important because the starting point you start prepping will also dictate how good you are out of the gates. If you start prep in terms of a bad body fat, but also not in a healthy position, you may have been pushing food in, body weight's been climbing really fast, and then you're going to go, okay, I'm going to start dieting. You're not going to see things kick off pretty quick. If anything, you're just going to see body weight really hold for a while. So if you can go into your diet phase on a nice maintenance phase for, you know, at least a few weeks, where you're in a healthy body composition, insulin sensitivity isn't terrible, then you will see the body weight drop down out the gates, which is really important. Again, because if you're not losing for the first few weeks, you're running out of time, then you rush the process again. So the third point will be about the amount of tools that you have to create that fat loss phase. So, you know, you may have heard this term before on Instagram or social media. Coaches say like tools in the toolbox, and it's a very important point. If you start your diet phase with a low amount of food, you haven't been reversing food upwards for a good amount of time, so your metabolic rate is not in a good position, and you're in a position where you need to create that fat loss through starting on very low food, low calories. That means your tools are extremely limited. Again, looking at output as well, so how much cardio and steps you're doing. If you're having to start that fat loss phase with a high amount of steps and, you know, a good amount of cardio, and you've got to pull off, let's say, like 15, 20 kilos, what are you going to do later on through that diet phase? What are you going to do when you're 15 weeks into your diet phase? You're going to be on super low food. You know, I've been in preps before myself where I've been on like sub 1400 calories, and it's not nice. Even if the rate of loss is the same, when you're on less food, you just will feel it more, and yeah, it's not what you want. It's going to create a high sympathetic state where stress is high, cardio is high, so recovery will be really taking a hit. You're doing loads of stuff in your legs, and we do not want that at all. So the next point is going to be training. Now this is so important. So this is kind of a slightly separate point about like time, tools, and your starting point. This is just about your training throughout that whole phase. It is literally the thing that allowed me to hold my muscle so well. We've got to think about it like this, all right? Your body weight's going up in a growing phase, and your training is shit. You're like using momentum, you're just throwing weights around, but your body weight's going up. It's all happy days, right? As you get heavier and heavier, the weight is going to feel better. It's going to just fly even more because you're using momentum. Body weight goes up, your ability to use that momentum increases. What are you going to do when body weight comes down? You start to, you know, see body weight coming down, and you look back, and in like 8 weeks time, you're down by like 10 kgs or whatever it is. and your ability to use momentum will be so poor. And if you keep training like that, your performance would have cascaded down with it. So you need to make sure that how you set up your training is appropriate for this phase. And whilst you should sort of train like this anyway in your growing phase, it's even more important through that diet phase. So make sure you're using the muscle for every part of that rep. Make sure you're minimizing the stretch reflex, maybe use pauses, and then also be very strategic with how you approach your exercise selection. When body weight comes down a lot, internal stability is leaving you. You need to now find movements that provide external stability. So the whole debate about free weights are king, that's not true, because machines provide external stability. Your ability to create mechanical tension, drive that stimulus through the muscle, will be more efficient, especially in a diet phase when you're lean, because your lack of internal stability means you'll be way less accurate. If you're doing, like, for example, I was doing a high incline dumbbell press. 8 weeks into prep, I had to swap it out for a high incline Smith press for that reason. So be clever with your training. Do not be scared of using machines and only machines at the latter end of prep. It's something that I did, and it allowed me to retain my muscle so well through those movements. Holding performance, you're going to hold your muscle. And the last point, and this is a seriously important point, slightly different one, but it's having a very strong why. You should not really be dieting just because you want, attention or social media, because it might seem cool to look lean. You need to diet because you have a very strong purpose. When we're talking about getting into the best shape of your life, right, we're talking about getting, relatively lean. Maybe it's not crazily lean, but ultimately that goal of getting lean is challenging. Hunger, is challenging. You need to deal with that hunger well. You need to have a strong enough why for you to really see that go out. And, whether that is competing, whether that's the enjoyment with the training and the purpose of dieting and seeing sort of the results of maybe a growing phase or whatever it is, you need to have a very strong why. Because if you don't, when it gets hard, you're 8 weeks in, you can very easily just give up and you go, okay, I'm going to stop. Brilliant. Then you're going to eat loads of food, your metabolic rate is in the gutters, and boom, you've gained crazy amounts of weight and you actually eat worse than you did at the start of your diet phase. You don't want that to happen. So make sure your motivation is high throughout that whole phase as well. So yeah, these are the main points for you. If you want to get into the best shape of your life without steroids, you're not going to use things that are going to enhance fat loss, enhancing muscle retention, all these things. We need to really look at the process, break it apart, and understand what are the key pillars to promote a successful diet phase where you can hold muscle and present your physique at its best. And it's what truly allowed me to be at my best. And I'm very excited to take my clients through that process this year, and then also executing another prep which will be even better for myself in 2025, using the data of this prep to do an even better prep where we'll probably be even starting a little bit lighter and losing a little bit less, because every single prep you're going to learn valuable data. So yeah, that is all from me. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed the content as always. Different style video, a bit more informative, but also some training stuff as well. And yeah, we're going to keep the content coming. If you have any suggestions for types of content you want to see, let me know. If you're new to the YouTube, drop a subscribe, and as always, drop a like as well. Appreciate all the support, and we'll keep the content coming. So yeah, see you very soon.